Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. But wait a second, if left-wing policies aren't extreme, if left-wing policies represent the majority view, then why is it that the most radical of left-wing bills always end up getting shut down? Whether it's their unconstitutional actions on the First and Second Amendment, or many other issues where the Supreme Court or other courts and federal judges have to step in and axe the bill, whether it's voters themselves who are sick of it, rising up in protest, signaling to these left-wing governments that enough is enough and it's time for a policy change, or sometimes it's the politicians themselves or the governor with veto power himself who axes a bill because clearly it's too extreme and a political liability heading into an election season. Why is it that we always see leftist bills and leftist policies getting blocked? Gavin Newsom recently said that all the talk going on about California coming from right-wing people is nothing but propaganda, Fox News, Tucker Carlson lies. Remember that, right? In that infamous moment with Jen Psaki. Well, if that's the case, little Gavin, why is it that Democrats in your state are passing bills that are so extreme that you feel the need now to veto them? I thought Democrats represented average people. I thought Democrats represented the majority view. Well, apparently not. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, you won't believe this, but Gavin Newsom actually did the right thing. Not exactly sure what the motive is, but he did the right thing. So let's start off with the context or the backstory first. California was trying to pass a very, let's call it controversial bill, a law that would essentially take children away from their parents. Parents would lose custody over their own child if they resisted that child's gender transition or identity of the day. In California, parents may lose custody of the child if they resist gender transition. The California State Assembly has approved the bill AB 957, making gender affirmation a factor to be considered in child custody cases. The bill, passed on Friday by a vote of 57 to 16, was previously approved by the California Senate with a vote of 30 to 9. This new legislation, titled the Transgender, Gender Diverse, and Intersex Youth Empowerment Act, seeks to prioritize the health, safety, and welfare of children, placing a spotlight on affirming a child's gender identity. The bill, initially introduced by Democratic Assemblywoman Lori D. Wilson on February 24th, underwent amendments in the Assembly on March 13th and further modifications in the Senate on June 5th before its final approval. Under the proposed law, parents who fail to acknowledge and support their child's gender transition could face potential consequences, including the loss of custody rights to another parent or even the state itself. The bill's supporters argue that it is in the best interest of children, aiming to create a more inclusive and affirming environment for gender-diverse youth. So essentially in California, these totally non-radical, totally moderate majority support Democrats, well, they thought to themselves, we got a lot of problems in California. You know, crazy crime, a major housing crisis, an illegal immigration crisis, inflation, gas prices are through the frickin' roof. And they asked themselves, what is our priority as California lawmakers? Yeah, let's write a bill that allows us, the state, to take children away from their parents if their parents disagree with their child's gender identity. I can't think of anything more insane. Here's a Democrat politician supporting the measure.
That parents affirm their children. They have since the dawn of time. Typically, it happens when their gender identity expression matches their biological gender. But what happens is when it doesn't, that's when the affirmation starts to wane. And that's what we're dealing with here. Although it's called the TGI bill, they're not mentioned anywhere in the law. What's mentioned in the law is the child's gender identity and expression and the parent's affirmation of that, whatever it is, because that is our duty as parents, to affirm our children.
Well, in a shocking turn of events, you won't believe this, Democrat California Governor Gavin Newsom just vetoed the bill. Late on Friday night, Gavin Newsom just vetoed AB 957, which would have required judges to remove custody of children from parents who don't, quote, affirm a child's gender identity or gender expression. Office of the Governor, September 22nd, 2023, to the members of California State Assembly, I am returning Assembly Bill 957 without my signature. This legislation would require a court when determining the best interest of a child in a child custody or visitation proceeding to consider, among other comprehensive factors, a parent's affirmation of child's gender identity or gender expression. I appreciate the passion and values that led the author to introduce this bill. I share a deep commitment to advancing the rights of transgender Californians, an effort that has guided my decision through many decades in public office. That said, I urge caution when the executive and legislative branches of the state government attempt to dictate in prescriptive terms that single out one characteristic legal standards for the judicial branch to apply. Other-minded elected officials in California and other states could very well use this strategy to diminish the civil rights of vulnerable communities. Moreover, a court under existing law is requiring to consider a child's health, safety, and welfare when determining the best interests of a child in these proceedings, including the parent's affirmation of the child's gender identity. Now, of course, he's taking the typical political stance. Oh, I support you guys. I'm still in the cult, but I'm returning this bill without a signature because it brings up other possible issues. Give me a break. Gavin Newsom isn't signing this bill because signing this bill would be political seppuku. He's not signing the bill because we're in the middle of an election cycle, and obviously parental rights in education is a front and center talking point in the world of politics right now. And the last thing Democrats need heading into an election is a headline that in California, the state can take away your children if you have an issue with your child's identity of the day. I can't think of anything worse for Democrats, obviously, and obviously Gavin Newsom knows this, and so he's vetoing the bill. Although I think this action is probably too little too late, considering the frickin' White House is saying stuff like this in interviews that happened literally yesterday.
There was civility. We could disagree. We could have healthy conversations around what's best for kids. I respect differences of opinions. I don't have too much respect for people that are misbehaving in public and then acting as if they know what's right for kids.
Yeah, that's Joe Biden's education secretary, Miguel Cardona, directly saying that he doesn't have respect for parents who act like they know what's right for their kids. Not for kids or what's right for kids, but what's right for their kids. That is the White House education secretary telling you essentially that he doesn't believe you have a say in your own child's education and that essentially your child belongs to the state. Let's really have a conversation about extreme policies. Let's have a conversation about which side has gone completely off the rails, completely insane and authoritarian. I don't know, call me a crazy person, but I feel like Democrats are kind of in charge of public education. When you think about public teacher unions, you think about the Democrat Party. Yeah, I feel like the party that is failing on education to such an extreme degree. In terms of public education, of course, California is at the bottom of the list. Headlines like this continue to exist in Democrat cities. Students at 40% of Baltimore high schools failed math proficiency exam. It's being titled Educational Homicide. Yeah, I feel like those people probably shouldn't be dictating what is right for our kids when they have a long, storied, multi-decade history of failing your children in the public education system. What an absolute farce. Oh, and meanwhile, Gavin Newsom is warning the public of the true threat to young children. Quote, I really worry about these micro-cults that my kids are in. I say micro-cults because I don't know if there's a better way to describe it. My son is asking me about Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, and then immediately he's talking about Joe Rogan. And I'm like, here it is, the pathway. Yeah, Gavin Newsom's more concerned about Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson than he is of the totally inappropriate, let's call it adult theme cult, currently targeting children in the public education system. I don't know. The lack of focus, the lack of just basic common sense is what's so frustrating here. Kind of what I'm trying to highlight. Not sure if I'm doing a great job at it though, honestly. But the lack of focus seems insane to me. To be focused on gender ideology at all, like the idea that even enters the conversation when talking about education, to me is so completely insane. These are the people who supposedly know what's right for your children, and they're essentially making the argument that gender ideology is more important than math proficiency, reading, knowledge of the tax system, and basic personal finance. I personally can't think of much more that could be any more extreme than that. Yet supposedly we're the ones pushing Fox News, Tucker Carlson craziness. Give me a frickin' break. And well, thankfully to a certain extent, it seems like that's exactly what we got as Gavin Newsom vetoed the damn bill, but I promise you folks, this isn't even close to the end of this story. We gotta find a way to protect this next generation from this absolutely insane, extreme, leftist cultist nonsense. Because obviously Gavin Newsom isn't gonna be the one to get the job done. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, friends, and I'll see you on the next one.